This lesson is going to be on solving equations with fractions. When we look at this problem, the first thing we notice that's different is that it now involves fractions. We're going to show two different ways to solve this problem. The first way is you just treat the fraction like a number. So we have 19 over 20 equals p minus 1 1/4. So all I have to do is just add 1 1/4 to both sides. To add 19 over 20 and 1 1/4, I have to get the fractions to have the same denominator. My common denominator is 20, so I could leave this as 19 over 20, and then this other fraction could be 1 and 5 over 20. Now I add the fractions, give me 24 over 20, and I add the whole numbers, which is just 1. Now I have to simplify this because it's an improper fraction, so it turns into 2 and 4 over 20, or 2 and 1/5. So now 19 over 20 plus 1 1/4 is 2 and 1/5. Now the p comes down. 1 1/4 minus 1 1/4 is 0. So I'm just left with p equals 2 and 1/5. Now another way I could do this problem is to get rid of the fractions from the beginning. So in order to do that, I would have 19 over 20 equals p. I'm going to turn this 1 1/4 into an improper fraction. So to do that, I keep the 4. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Now I'm going to multiply the whole equation by my common denominator. My common denominator, because this would be p over 1 for all the numbers, is 20. Now I'm going to multiply each term by 20. 19 over 20 times 20 is just 19. P over 1 times 20 is 20p. And 5 over 4 times 20 is negative 25, because it's a negative 5 over 4. Now I have an equation that doesn't have any fractions. So I can add 25 to both sides. 19 plus 25 is 44. 20p comes down. Negative 25 plus 25 is 0. And then I can divide both sides by 20. 44 over 20, that simplifies to 2 and 4 over 20. 20p divided by 20 is just p. And when I reduce this, I get 2 and 1/5 is equal to p, which is the same answer I got from the first way of solving it. What is the solution of this equation? So I'm going to talk about two ways to solve this one as well too. First, I'm going to turn this into a fraction, and I'm going to multiply the whole equation by my common denominator. My common denominator is 2. So I'm going to multiply each term by 2. Negative 2 over 1 times 2 is negative 4. 3 over 2a times 2 is 3a. Divide both sides by 3. Negative 4 over 3 is negative 1 1/3. Negative 3a divided by 3 is just a. So my answer is negative 1 1/3 equals a. Another way I could do this, when you just have one singular fraction with your variable, is to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is when you flip the fraction. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side as well too. The reason why I can multiply them by the reciprocal, because when I cross simplify, all I'm left with is just 1, so I'm just left with a. Now 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 3 times 1 is 3. That simplifies to negative 1 and 1/3 equals a, which is the same answer I got from the first way of solving it. What is the solution of this equation? When I have multiple fractions, I like to turn any non-fraction to a fraction by putting over 1. And then I want to get rid of the fraction, so I'm just going to multiply by my common denominator. common denominator is 5. So I have to multiply each term by my common denominator of 5. 13 times 5 is 65. 3/5 times 5 is 3. X over 5 times 5 is just x. And then 3/5 times 5 is 3. 65 plus 3 is 68 equals x plus 3. Subtract 3 from each side. I'm left with 65 equals x, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So I have 65 is equal to x. Negative 2 and 14/15 minus negative 2 and 1/5. I'm going to multiply by, first, before I multiply by my common denominator, I like to turn them into improper fractions. So 2 times 15 is 30, plus 14, I'm left with negative 44 over 15 equals a negative 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Negative 11 and 5/9. Negative 11 over 5 times n. I'm going to multiply by my common denominator of 15. Negative 44 over 15 times 15 is negative 44. Negative 11 over 5 times 15 is negative 33n. Divide both sides by negative 33. Negative 44 over negative 33 is a positive 1, and 11 over 33. Negative 33n divided by negative 33 is just n. And I can reduce that fraction to 1 and 1/3 is equal to n. 7 over 15 equals 1 and 2/5 x. I'm going to turn all my fractions into improper fractions. So I have 7 over 15. This turns into 5 in the denominator. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7, x. I'm going to solve this one differently and multiply by the reciprocal, which is 5 over 7. Multiply by 5 over 7. I can cross simplify. The 7's can both turn into 1. The 5 can turn into a 1. The 15 can turn into a 3. So I'm left with 1/3 equals, since I multiplied by the reciprocal, it just turns into 1. So I'm just left with x. So 1/3 is equal to x.